This is Vermont Viewpoint on WDEV. You think you had it bad during the pandemic. Imagine setting up to perform at wonderful concert venues around the state and the audience doesn't show up. That just kept happening to our next guests. The Champlain Trio might have been the loneliest musicians on the planet during the pandemic. Luckily, they didn't take it personally, and luckily they had planned to play to empty venues. It was for a series with Vermont PBS called Empty Stages, and they're here to talk about their travels and their music. Emily Taubel plays cello in the trio. Emily, welcome to Vermont Viewpoint.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Hiromi Fukuda plays piano. Hiromi, welcome to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Letitia Quanti plays violin. Letitia, it's great to have you on the show as well.
Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Listeners, to ask our guests about their odyssey of playing to no one, or to let them know if you saw any of their performances on Vermont PBS, you can call us at 244-1777 or 877-291-8255. You can also email vtviewpoint@radiovermont.com. Emily, what is the Champlain Trio?
The Champlain Trio is a piano trio, so formed with a violin, a cello, and a piano. Hiromi, Letitia, and I formed the trio a little bit before COVID started. We had a concert on the calendar for July, and we started getting together early just to kind of get to know each other's playing and style. We didn't have any intention of forming a formal ensemble. We were just going to play one concert, and then COVID hit, and we decided that we kind of quickly noticed that all the other concerts were getting canceled. Our orchestra concerts, our teaching was online, and so we decided to form, a sort of pod and get together and still continue to play chamber music. Kind of just exploring how it felt to play together. And after a few months of doing that, we just really get along well, and we musically get along very well. So we decided to make it official.
Letitia, how did the three of you know each other and get together to form this trio?
I mean, there were definitely threads where we had known each other in our past, and we had played concerts, and that's why we wanted to play that first concert together in the first place. It's just we just love each other's playing. And then there was something about, look, we can't play with everyone we love, but we have the three of us right now, and this is so special, and can this be a core for a while? And I feel so blessed that was what happened, because all we've kept doing is growing as an ensemble and growing in our love for music together. So.
Hiromi, it's interesting what Letitia just said, because when I see the three of you perform, there is this pleasant joy that people can see on your faces and body language. So what is it that the three of you enjoy so much about playing together?
I think it's a combination of personalities and the musicality. Forming a professional performing group it's difficult because, we have our own life, family, and just making the time to really dedicate is difficult in the first place. But then just feeling the pulse of the music together, the expression of the music in a similar way is also rare. And somehow I think we have that from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And also just personality-wise, we're different. Each of us has different strong points, different personality. We react to things differently, but it is a good combination. We complement each other, and we just enjoy playing together.
It really does show. Now, Emily, how do you decide what pieces to play for a particular performance?
That's a great question. For the films, part of the decision making was, what are we comfortable playing? Does anybody have a favorite composer? And some of it was making sure everything was public domain. So part of that was influenced in that way. But when we perform normal concerts, not being filmed, we usually sit down and map out either, we have one piece in mind that we're really dying to play, and then we put the rest of the program around that. Or we can come up with a theme and try to program to the theme. So what we have coming up this fall is a bit of both. We have a few pieces that we really wanted to program, and then we fit other things around it, and then a theme sort of emerged. So it's a little bit of it's collaborative for sure, trying to pick what we're all excited to play, especially for the course of a few months. There's a few months of prep, and then there's a few months of playing. So it's kind of a long commitment. So you really want to love what you're playing.
And you all always agree all the time. That's great.
So far so good.
Pretty close.
like Hiromi said, we definitely have very different personalities, but we each fit a certain need in the trio. So everybody has some balance. And so when someone's super passionate about something like a piece, we normally go, great, let's play it. And then we work around the other pieces. So it's worked out really well so far.
Letitia.
I like to joke that it's kind of like the three fates. It's like we have such different viewpoints, but they come together for like a kind of universal feeling. So it's really fun.
That's beautiful. Well, Letitia, what was it like though for the trio? The pandemic begins and stuck around for a lot longer than we initially thought it would. What was it like going through that in this pod of the Champlain Trio?
Again, I just feel really blessed. It felt like I was protected slightly because I still had an outlet musically, no matter what was going on in my home, and also a way of talking to two other women who have very different viewpoints from me. Sometimes very similar, but the idea is that there was always this group to kind of bounce ideas off of, both musically or personally. And so for me, during this pandemic, as much as I saw most of my personal income disappearing or totally disappeared, it still felt like there was this hope constantly. And so for me, I guess this was a centering of hope musically.
So talk about that, Letitia. I know the three of you as the trio, but away from the trio, what is it that you normally do? What is it that went away as far as you being able to earn?
Since I've moved to Vermont, it was always trying to play on my instrument as much as possible with everyone that I was meeting in the state. So it was concerts after concerts after concerts every weekend. So my core was always performing in this state. I also had started really doing a studio of teaching. Unfortunately, I live in a Wi-Fi area where when Zoom became the way to teach last year, I couldn't continue at the same pace as some of my peers just because I didn't have the correct Wi-Fi without, having it stall every 2 seconds and listening to passages either really slowly or really fast, depending on what the internet was giving me. So for me, it really equaled both performing and my teaching going away. I have two very young daughters. They were not homeschooled, but online schooled this past year. And so it was also me suddenly being very much a mother on a daily basis as my, emotional and mental. Anyway, so it did for me to have this trio and this idea of still figuring out a way to show the venues I usually perform at all the time. And with friends that I just was so entranced by the music we were actually creating between the three of us. It was just, I was lucky.
Yeah.
As much as I was unlucky economically, I was lucky on the full level.
You found the silver lining. Hiromi, where did the idea come from for the Empty Stages series, and what do you all think about it when you first heard about it?
Well, the idea emerged organically, and I think the first idea came from Letitia. So we were preparing for this concert that we were supposed to have, and then it became apparent that it wasn't going to happen. But since we got together and realized that we play well together, we wanted to do something. So we created a mini video concert series for a retirement community. And then, so this was a self-made, self-filmed, self-edited video content of 3 minutes each times 4. And then while we were doing that, Letitia said, you know, I know these people who are presenters at all these venues across the state, and they are really sad that it's been empty. And so then we just thought about, can we, you know, we knew they were empty, but can we visit there and maybe interview the people that usually run the place and maybe perform a piece or two? And then, you know, this was a small idea, and we thought, since it was pandemic, we can't have a big crew or anything, so maybe we can do it ourselves. But then all other ideas came up, and then it was we realized that we needed professionals to do it for us. Then the idea became bigger and bigger, and so we contacted Jay Craven, who is a renowned film director, and also we needed to come up with a fundraising idea to produce this. So we really started from zero, but it came to some kind of shape very quickly, and the support from the community was overwhelming in terms of donations and you know, accommodating how to do the filming safely. So yeah, it was like really came out of that dark moment, but then once we found the idea, it was a ray of hope, and it really sustained us during the pandemic.
That's so great. Emily, in an episode of Empty Stages, what will people see when they watch?
There are 6 different episodes with very, very different venues. So any episode will have a very different feeling, but typically what you'll see is really beautiful drone footage, usually of the town, and also kind of zeroing in on the outside of the venue. And then we interview various people inside the organization to talk about how COVID affected their programming, how it affected their just ability to run the venue, and talk about if they were able to pivot to online events or if really the venue was just closed, and to hear their stories. And then there's quite a bit of we call it B-roll, but it's kind of behind the scenes, a little bit of a look into our relationship as a trio and a little bit into our past. So you'll learn about the 3 of us. And then we always perform a movement of a piece on the stage.
Letitia, what was it like working with filmmaker Jay Craven?
Oh, such an honor. I mean, the fact that we fell into a project with him without even really, Emily, I have to say, did research on possible filmmakers, and somehow the universe just led us to Jay Craven, and he took, not only was he using a chamber crew of filmmakers, because honestly, normally he works on a much bigger scale, and for him to have taken a chance on us with such a small crew, it was inspiring to us as much as our music was, and our exploration of the stages. He just so lucky.
Hiromi, now there you are in this empty venue. How was that performing in your live performance, but to an empty, beautiful venue?
Well, it was certainly different from a normal concert that we would play. First of all, it wasn't just a one performance, but because they needed many different camera angles, we would typically play 4 or 5 times. And with the camera crew, they would start from a long shot and they come closer and closer. And that kind of pacing was something that we needed to get used to. And walking into an empty place was a little bit surreal. There's certain things that you expect when you go into a concert hall for a concert, and then you get prepared, and when you're ready to walk out on the stage, you'll hear the murmurs of rustle in the audience, and there's an applause. And none of that was there. In a way, I think we needed to kind of make believe that there were people and that we were performing for somebody. And somehow that makes a difference in our playing. And so it was a learning experience to play in that kind of environment. And one memorable moment was in the very last episode when we played at Brattleboro Music Center. The school and the center was open to a limited number of students in the different wing of the building. And so the staff wanted to come listen to us. So not for the filming part, but we actually did another bonus performance for them, like 4 of them in the big space. And they were almost in tears when we played the Mendelssohn. So it was very meaningful in many, many senses.
Emily, Hiromi mentioned this. As I've watched a lot of live streams by musicians throughout the pandemic, the one thing that always feels kind of awkward is finishing the piece and not knowing exactly. You don't hear the applause. You don't have that feedback, which gives you kind of a moment to just let that wash over you, but you didn't have that. So did you decide ahead of time how you were going to react, or how did it feel when you'd finish a piece and you had no reaction from an audience?
That was definitely, like Hiromi mentioned, a little bit of a learning curve as we filmed. I don't think we thought about it too much. Honestly, this was the first big filming project I think any of us have done, and just the whole grassroots operation of fundraising, and then we really redesigned the episodes with Jay Craven, and then went through designed all the testing regimen, and so much went into creating the series that I think by the time we showed up and saw, oh wow, there's a crew and there's a filmmaker and we're here and it's happening. It was a little bit surreal. And so I don't think we really thought through exactly how that was going to feel.
Yeah.
But I remember when we first started filming, I think it was the very first day, and we finished playing through a run just to do a sound check, and we heard one of the camera guys go, wow. And so, just that little, acknowledgement of the moment was enough to really help us feel like we were connecting with someone, and the crew are very patient. Over time they did have to hear everything 4 or 5 times. So they probably heard too much of us, but they were very kind and always so supportive at the end, as soon as we wrapped. So it sort of took the place of needing applause and just sort of felt like we were playing for this small crew, and it became a very collaborative, really special situation.
Letitia, the shoe was on the other foot, as it were. You were interviewing rather than being interviewed during this. So how'd that feel? How'd you prepare for it? Are you ready to go into that? Do you want to interview people for a living? Are you going to take my job? That's what I want to know, Letitia.
Such a good question. There was no way that I could prepare. Unless I was just thinking, really I wanted to have their stories told, right? So I was just trying to open out the things I would think are their challenges right now. But it was, nope. I'm just on stage. I don't know how correctly to prepare someone to be able to tell their stories. But I tried, and it was just such a moment of connection for someone who has been so isolated. To see someone else talking about what their experience was, it was actually, that side was easy in terms of just, please tell me how you're feeling,
Hiromi, has the trio gone back to performing live in front of audiences?
Yes, we actually have our first public performance in person tomorrow.
Oh my gosh!
Right. So it is at Rick Robbins. So it's a private concert, but it is this live audience. So we've been rehearsing for that, And we have an exciting fall coming up. We have 3 concerts in October in different places, one in New Hampshire, one in Burlington, UVM Hall, and one at Dibden Center. And these are all, if things stay well, it will be all in-person regular concerts. So we are really, really looking forward to it.
Oh, I bet. That's going to be fantastic. Emily, was there a favorite moment or experience for you during this tour and the filming of Empty Stages?
Oh gosh, to pick one would be really hard. I do think for me, the feeling of showing up the first day and seeing it be real will be something I'll never forget. And just really entering all of the various venues, seeing the Flynn Center for the first time in over a year, when normally, like Letitia said, we're there very often. And then what Hiromi mentioned, playing for the staff in Brattleboro, where it was playing for people, not to film, not to record, just to play for people as a gift. Those are really, really special moments in my mind. But truly, just getting to play together and getting to know Letitia and Hiromi so well, and feel just that, we were on a team and we were making something special during such a hard time, and working with Jay and his crew. There wasn't a non-special moment.
That's beautiful.
Agreed.
The Champlain Trio is Emily Taubel, Hiromi Fukuda, and Letitia Quanti, and you can learn more about them and their performances at ChamplainTrio.com. I want to thank you all for being on the show this morning.